What is going on, guys? So I am going through another level of deconstruction, another level of the onion of my soul, letting go of specific constructs, specific things that have held me in a limited state of mind that I'm just questioning, that I'm integrating into wholeness. And one of those things that I'm integrating right now is I have this emotional thing inside of me, which would be one of my biggest assets in my past to be able to fit in with people, to be able to connect with people. And it's this thing that goes, don't be too authentic. Don't be too outspoken. And so in the past, and even the recent past, I would have to have, more so in the distant past, I would have to have drinks, alcohol, in order to step into what I felt my power was, so that I could be radically authentic, speaking from a place of power, speaking from a place of embodiment, without worrying that I was going to offend people. Because of religion and Christianity in different circles, not every circle, but in specific circles, the amount of judgment that comes when you operate outside of the bounds of what's acceptable. Or when I was as a child growing up in a education system that gets to program you so you don't critically think, so you don't move, so you don't do it, so you get labeled as ADHD and all these different things. I learned I had to fit in and damper my authenticity in order to make sure that the teacher's okay. I needed to tone it down to make sure that I could fit in with my family structure at home. I had to tone it down so that I could fit into this religion, because it needed to, you can't be too crazy. You can't be too out there. You can't believe certain things if you challenge or believe anything. So my entire life, facets of my soul, I chose, but when you're young, you don't realize that you're making a choice, but you are. You choose to hinder certain facets of who you are so that you can fit in, so you won't be rejected, so you won't be abandoned. Do you know what I mean? And so, because when you got abandoned when you were 5, when you acted out in school, or you got sent to the office or whatever, that felt like death, because then mom and dad were upset with you, and then they're your livelihood. So you basically at that age learn very quickly to get in line, to damper your light, to put a blind over the light of the world that you are, so that you don't stir the pot and cause problems and trigger people, trigger the system. And honestly, I'm done with the bullshit. I'm not mad at anyone in particular. If anything, I might be mad at myself. Because there's certain facets of me that I've held back, maybe even sometimes under the guise of love and light. Oh, you just need to be loving, you need to be light. But that's who we truly are. So there's truth in that. But there's a facet of me that maybe wouldn't be confrontational, that would be more agreeable, as Jordan Peterson would put it, be more agreeable with certain circumstances and people to avoid confrontation rather than speaking my authentic truth. So what was I doing when I was doing that? I would wear a mask. Okay? A mask of agreeableness in order to fit in so that I wouldn't feel judged. And I'm just coming on here, basically, full transparency, to release this video and say, fuck that. Fuck that. I'm not doing that anymore. It's not that I'm not a loving, peace-loving, blissed out person a lot of the time. That's true. And it's not that I'm hating anybody in my heart. But there's something that's happening in me right now where I realize I cannot compromise who I am on any level anymore. So I'm not mad at anybody, but I'm basically making this video for myself to confront the fear of what people might think if I just speak bluntly and throw out a couple F-bombs. If I shine a light on the fact that the system, people, patterns, programs have limited me in my life, have limited us in our life, and I'm shining a light on that to say I'm not having that shit anymore. I'm done with it. And I feel like this video for me is an integration piece to bring it into the light even further, to put it out there with public scrutiny, public people that can make comments and everything like that. And I just don't care anymore. So there's this deep fear in me that I'm just realizing that I've had, that I've compartmentalized my consciousness into different boxes, where a lot of the time I feel blissed out, I feel connected with the union with God in Christ, connected to the divine nature of who we are as one with God. And that's awesome. But then there's other states that I get into sometimes that I would call low states or angry states or emotional states that in myself I've maybe labeled as bad. Yesterday and today could be considered one of those days, one of these states, these lower states. But I'm starting to realize that these lower states are actually just one potential of the limitless expression that I am. And it's not bad or good, and I don't need to label it. And I don't need to be in a certain frequency or a certain vibration in order to make a video. I need to be authentic. And today isn't one of those days where I'm feeling all blissed out or all peace or anything like that. But I think that it has to do with these lowered states of, I don't even want to call them lower, these different, these darker, these more virulent states of mind and body, I believe are here to get us to question certain things that are happening in our life, in our mind, in our bodies, in our belief systems, in our programs, so that we can call bullshit on all of the religious separation programming, on the world of origin systems and programming that they're putting down the pipe, the fear-based propaganda, whatever it is that is influencing you in your life. We can call bullshit on that and say, I ain't having it. I ain't having it anymore. We know who we are as divine beings of love and light, as star seeds, as those that are of ascended vibration, who have remembered the divine origin, who have gone through a spiritual awakening, that realize that we're not just our flesh and blood anymore. Okay? There's another side after this. This earth journey is just a little piece. Okay, this earth journey is just a blip on the radar. James in the Bible said it this way: life is but a vapor. Here 1 second, gone the next. But it's so deep and dense and dark and hard, and we experience the wide range of emotions in it, that some days you can just want to leave. You just want to go. You just want to transcend this natural order and go back to bliss. But the imprint of us experiencing and walking out this human experience, this life journey, with all the contradictions of who we're not, in our health, in our relationships, in our finances, in whatever situation is limiting your freedom and expression right now, because you're a limitless being, but in this earth realm, we have so many limitations that we're not actually free here. And so imagine being a divine creator God that's one with God in the heavenly realms, with no limitations, in unconditional love, and then coming here and experiencing the whole gambit of stuff. The soul imprint that we are picking up just by being here is going to radically change who we are in eternity, because of the sheer contrast of craziness, confusion, abuse, trauma, everything that you're walking through is radically changing your soul's imprint. So when you go back, you're going to be completely different than you were before you came, because of the intensity of this transition in ages that we're going through in the world right now. So this is just a crazy time to be alive. I don't know who else has been feeling this, but specifically just the last week here in September, it's felt like there's another layer of deconstruction, another layer of conditioning that's coming off. And we can't hide this shit anymore. We need to talk about this. We need to bring this stuff. Nothing's off the table. Nothing is off the table. Okay, all the major spiritual traditions, there's truth in them all. There's crap in them all, but there's truth in them all. And we know that in the Bible, and many of the Christians believe that there's a rapture coming, that there's an ending of the age coming. There's so many, the Hopi prophecy says the same thing. There's so many different, across different cultures, saying that there is a change that's coming, that there's an end, a completion, the Mayan calendar. So many completion cycles are coming to an end right now. And the world's feeling it. We're feeling it. It's like the water's been boiling and we put a lid on the pot, but the water is boiling out of the top of the pot now. And it's like the powers to be, the deep state is pushing back with like mandates and all the bullshit, COVID, regulations, jabs, whatever, to try to get everyone's frequency back down. And it's too late. Those that are on the fence are waking up. Those who are already woken up are going, like, it's just bullshit. There's more happening. And so within this place, integrating these emotions into the high vibration of love and light, I believe is the highest road and the highest path. But it's okay not to resist and reject when we are in frustration, when we are in anger, when we are in a state of being that we usually don't prefer. Because once again, you are the light of the world. And when the light hits the prism, the crystal of your body, the crystalline structure of your body, as our DNA is being upgraded, what happens when light hits a prism? It breaks down into many colors. Roy G. Biff, red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, violet. All of these are different frequencies. These different frequencies correspond to different emotional states, because emotion is energy in motion. Okay, we are multi-dimensional beings, multifaceted beings. None of these emotional states, even if they're very low on the spectrum and they're hitting you, they're not bad. And this is what I'm learning in a real tangible way right now. It's okay if I come on, make a video and I'm a little bit angry in my heart. You might not even be able to tell that I'm angry because I'm pretty mellow usually. But I have to come on and do this for myself, because normally I wouldn't make a video when I'm in this kind of state. I'd be like, oh, what if I come across too harsh and you know, people don't want to listen, or people get offended and triggered. Fuck that. I've been healing triggers in my own life for the past 4 years in my own heart. Your triggers are your responsibility, okay? I love you, but your triggers are your responsibility. It is not my responsibility to conform to some kind of agenda or ideology out there somewhere that the government, the deep state, whoever fucking made up for me to conform my pattern to fit into your world. Fuck that. I'm gonna let my rainbow shine, baby. All of the expressions of who I am without hindering it, without a mask. And so here's just another color of Daniel Somerville in his human experience, releasing in a random babble talk that hopefully you grab something from. So I don't know if you can relate. Doesn't matter. Much love. There's a lot of things that I've been thinking about, and I don't even know if I want to get into it right now. I'm here and go for it. So here's one main thing that I've just been pondering the last couple days. For the last 3 to 4 years since I went through my dark night of the soul and the deconstruction came of separation doctrines, I've never talked about this, but when I was going through the deep dark night of the soul and I was in a really, really bad spot one day, I ended up having a couple drinks and smoking some weed. I hadn't smoked weed in like 10 years. And I went down and I sat into my prayer chair where I meditate and I connect with God, and it's a powerful place. And when I did that, I went into an alternate dimension. And in this alternate dimension or realm that I was in, it was like a hellish place, and I could see fragmentation, and it was like I could see my soul simultaneously existing across 39 dimensions. And while I was in this state of being, two entities that could have been considered demonic entities, I could feel them, I could sense them, and they were tormenting me, they were controlling me. And like literally in the physical, like I stood up to go to the bathroom and I got pushed and like fell into this wall, and like I could feel them in me, through me, but I was in another dimensional plane of existence. Why am I bringing that up? Because during that time, I was going through the deconstruction of demons and devils are not real. And what that experience showed me was exactly that. That in my consciousness, Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Yeah? So if the kingdom of heaven is within you, and it's a state of consciousness, for the kingdom is not meat or drink, external things that we need to eat to become one with, but it's righteousness, peace, and joy, these high vibrational states, righteousness and right alignment with your true self. Okay? So if that's the kingdom of heaven, well, what's the kingdom of hell? It's the exact opposite. It's separation from God. It's fear, guilt, condemnation, low vibrational states of being, and wrong alignment associating with the false self. Okay? And so there I was in the dark night of the soul, looking for a sky god. Hadn't gone through my deconstruction of all my doctrines yet. So I was living as the false self, living in this idea that God was going to come and save me and upgrade me so that I could save the world for Jesus. And what ends up happening is he's like, son, you need to let me go. You need to let me go so that you can find yourself, so that you can find the truth of who you are. The divine being that I modeled on the earth, you are too. As he is, so are you in this world. And so this hellish experience that I was taken into and had, I realized was a projection and created from the consciousness level that I was in. I was in fear. I was in separation. I was in shame. I was in anger. I was in torment. And guess what? When I went into meditation in my prayer chair, I went into this altered state of consciousness and I was shown access to my field. What I was creating in that now moment was torment, was hell, was fear. Because I was the powerful creator creating that reality that I was in. And these entities that were attacking me were actually separate. They were projections, personified projections of my consciousness, reflecting back to me the truth of where I was at. Because how else are we to know where we're at unless we get reflections? For as a person thinks in their heart, so are they. There's another scripture in Proverbs that's amazing. It says, just as the face of water reflects the face of man, the man's heart reflects the man's life. Think about that. Your heart, what you're holding in your heart, literally is reflecting your life. Okay? You do not see things as they are, you see them as you are. And how you are is going to be reflected back to you. People are going to treat you how you see yourself. Okay? Which is why we need to not hinder some of these more tough, virulent, strong, secure parts of ourselves in the name of not being rejected and then staying small, but we're actually getting rejected by people because we're rejecting ourselves. Every time you reject a facet of your soul, a facet of who you are, no matter how harsh, no matter how dark it is, guess what? That rejection is projected out, and somebody else is going to reject you, but they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the false you. They're rejecting the rejection in you. Okay? Don't reject and abandon yourself anymore. I'm not going to either. So that's not even what I wanted to tell you. So all that to say is what I've been really thinking today, and this next level of unwinding, of deconstruction and limiting belief systems in my own life. Jesus came to me in the midst of my deconstruction very faintly, but I know his presence so well. I know the presence of God so well that it was undeniable. I was sitting on this bench by a river, looking out, watching it flow by and going, my life is flowing by. What is the purpose of all of this? And I had this vision in my mind, and Jesus put his head against mine and he said, son, it's time to let me go. And at first, I deconstructed demons and the devil, and I knew I was a powerful co-creator at this point. So I didn't think anything of it. I thought a lot of it actually, but I didn't think, oh my God. I had this moment where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm being deceived. Maybe it's, an entity, a demon, the devil that's doing it. And then I said, no, that's not that. I already went through that hellish experience, which was confirmed to me that I was creating it. Because as soon as I came out of that state of consciousness, it all dissolved. I didn't have to fight it. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to change my heart condition and my heart set and begin to send love to myself and love to that place, and it broke it. And so he told me to let me go, and it took me about 1.5 years to process and integrate that. A lot of pain, a lot of grief. It was like I lost my best friend. It was like I lost my lifelong partner. It was savagely intense. It was like I was grieving. I didn't know what grief was, but I went through a deep, deep grieving period. And it changed my relationship with God and the Bible forever. So here we go, fast forward 2 more years later, and Jesus has been a guide, he's been a blueprint, he's been a help, he's been an amazing older brother and teacher during these last 2 years, which I still resonate with him on that level. But what I'm thinking about in these last couple days, which hadn't really, this is probably obvious to a lot of you, but it hadn't hit my heart that deep until just now, just recently, is if there is no hell that we thought there was, because it's a state of mind and consciousness that we're creating based off we're in that vibration or not, and if we're not sinners who are separate from God, we weren't born into this world dirty. Sin was actually, I'll never forget when God spoke to me so clearly. This was before my deconstruction. God said, did you know that sin and everything that Jesus is fulfilling in the new covenant was for the Jews in that day? It was to fulfill the mindset of the Jewish culture in that day, and it had little to no relevance for the rest of the world. I was blown away. I didn't accept it for so long until God confirmed it to me over and over that the fulfillment of sin was not for the entire everybody. He is the lamb that takes away the sin of the world. But the world isn't the entirety of the earth. The world is a worldly structure. The programs and patterns of the world. The world is different from earth. Earth is Gaia. It's the living ecosystem with mountains, lakes, rivers, beauty everywhere. Harmony and oneness with the animals and trees, flora and fauna. The world is the egoic patterns and constructs that we've agreed to. Okay? So the Jewish culture was steeped in a lot of this pharisaical separation consciousness, and Jesus had to meet them where they were at to help that group of people out of the bondage of sacrificing bulls and goats, out of low vibrational junk, into spirit and truth, a way higher consciousness level. Okay? And so if there's no hell and there's no reason, you're not a dirty, wretched sinner, even according to Asclepius 7:29, I believe, somewhere in there, it says, men came into the world upright, but they seek out many schemes, many worldly twistings of their minds. We totally forgot who we were. We need to be born again and remember our divinity, our divine origin of who we are as one with Christ. And now Paul and Peter and John, they were writing the best they could in the language that they had. They didn't have words like awareness and consciousness and vibration and frequency and divinity. They didn't have these kind of words at their disposal. At least the translations to the English text didn't have that. Back in King James' day, they were still in the thous and thou shall nots and whatever, that old language. So I guess what I'm saying is, do we, the human race, need a savior? If we are not sinners, so we don't need to be saved from being a wretch, and we don't need to be saved from hell. What do we need to be saved from? And what kind of savior is Jesus at that point in time? I love you guys. Have a great day. Leave your comments down below.